It is a truth universally acknowledged that a single man in possession of a good fortune must be in want of a wife. This sentiment echoed through the drawing rooms of Hertfordshire, where the Bennet family resided. Mrs. Bennet, with her relentless ambition to see her daughters married well, was particularly intrigued by the arrival of Mr. Bingley, a wealthy bachelor who had taken residence at Netherfield Park. Her excitement was palpable as she envisioned the possibilities of matchmaking her eldest daughter, Jane, with this eligible gentleman. The news of Mr. Bingley's wealth spread quickly, igniting hope in the hearts of mothers and daughters alike. However, Mrs. Bennet's plans were met with skepticism from her husband, Mr. Bennet, who found amusement in her fervor. He often teased her about her matchmaking schemes, yet he secretly enjoyed the lively discussions that followed. Meanwhile, the Bennet sisters, Jane, Elizabeth, Mary, Kitty, and Lydia, each had their own perspectives on the matter. Jane, the eldest, was gentle and kind, embodying the ideal qualities of a future wife. Elizabeth, with her sharp wit and independent spirit, was less concerned with societal expectations and more interested in personal happiness. As the days passed, anticipation grew for the upcoming ball at Meryton, where the girls hoped to make a favorable impression on Mr. Bingley. The prospect of meeting him filled the household with excitement, but it also stirred Elizabeth's curiosity about the other officers stationed in the area. Among them was Mr. Wickham, whose reputation preceded him, promising intrigue and perhaps a touch of romance. Little did they know, the events set in motion that evening would change their lives forever, intertwining their fates in unexpected ways. The night of the Meryton ball arrived, and the Bennet sisters were a flurry of excitement and nerves. Mrs. Bennet fussed over their dresses, ensuring each daughter looked her best. Jane wore a soft blue gown that accentuated her beauty, while Elizabeth chose a simple yet elegant dress that reflected her personality. As they entered the assembly hall, the atmosphere buzzed with chatter and laughter. The sight of Mr. Bingley was a breath of fresh air. He was charming and affable, quickly drawing the attention of the attendees. He danced with grace, inviting Jane to join him. Their chemistry was immediate, and the two quickly became the center of attention. Elizabeth, however, found herself observing Mr. Bingley's friend, Mr. Darcy, who stood aloof and proud, seemingly unimpressed by the festivities. His demeanor drew whispers and speculation from the crowd, labeling him as proud and disagreeable. Elizabeth, intrigued by his arrogance, decided to engage in a bit of playful banter. When Mr. Darcy refused to dance with her, she felt a spark of defiance. As the evening progressed, Elizabeth's sharp wit and lively spirit began to draw attention, and she found herself enjoying the evening despite Mr. Darcy's disdainful glances. Days passed after the ball, and the Bennet household was abuzz with gossip and excitement. Jane and Mr. Bingley's budding friendship flourished, with the two often seen together at social gatherings. Mrs. Bennet's hopes soared, envisioning a potential marriage that would secure Jane's future. Meanwhile, Elizabeth's curiosity about Mr. Darcy lingered. She couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to him than his proud exterior suggested. Conversations with her sisters revealed differing opinions. Jane remained hopeful, while Lydia and Kitty were enamored by the officers, particularly Mr. Wickham, who had charmed them with his good looks and engaging stories. Elizabeth, however, was drawn to the contrast between the amiable Mr. Bingley and the enigmatic Mr. Darcy. One afternoon, while walking in the garden, Elizabeth encountered Mr. Wickham, who shared his grievances about Mr. Darcy's treatment of him. He painted a picture of a man who was not just proud but also unjust. Elizabeth listened intently, intrigued by Wickham's charisma and charm. Their conversation sparked a connection, and Elizabeth felt a sense of camaraderie with him. However, the more she learned about the two men, the more complex her feelings became, leaving her torn between admiration and skepticism. As the weeks unfolded, the Bennet family received an invitation to dine at Netherfield, which sent Mrs. Bennet into a frenzy of preparation. She saw this as an opportunity to solidify Jane's relationship with Mr. Bingley, hoping that a more intimate setting would deepen their connection. The evening arrived, and the sisters were both excited and anxious. Upon arrival, they were greeted warmly by Mr. Bingley, whose charm put everyone at ease. Elizabeth, however, found herself once again face to face with Mr. Darcy. His aloofness was as prominent as ever, and Elizabeth was determined to remain unaffected by his presence. The dinner was lively, filled with laughter and conversation, but Elizabeth noticed the subtle tension between Mr. Bingley and Mr. Darcy. While Bingley was engaging and friendly, Darcy's reserved nature seemed to cast a shadow over the evening. Elizabeth and Darcy exchanged barbs, both refusing to back down. Elizabeth's spirited nature clashed with Darcy's pride, creating an undeniable tension. Throughout the evening, she couldn't help but feel drawn to the complexity of his character, despite her initial disdain. As the night came to a close, Elizabeth left Netherfield with mixed emotions, questioning her perceptions of the proud gentleman and intrigued by the layers beneath his exterior. The following days were filled with whispers of potential engagements, particularly surrounding Jane and Mr. Bingley. The Bennet sisters were abuzz with speculation, each hoping for the best outcome. Elizabeth, however, found herself increasingly distracted by thoughts of Mr. Darcy. His proud demeanor and sharp wit lingered in her mind, challenging her initial impressions. She often discussed him with her sisters, who had varying opinions about his character. Lydia and Kitty dismissed him as arrogant, while Jane remained hopeful that he would come to appreciate Elizabeth's vivacity. One afternoon, while visiting the local library, Elizabeth encountered Mr. Wickham once again. Their conversations continued to grow deeper, and he shared more about his past with Mr. Darcy, painting a picture of a man who was not only proud but also vindictive. Elizabeth listened with rapt attention, feeling a growing affection for Wickham and a deepening wariness of Darcy. As the days turned into weeks, Elizabeth found herself caught in a web of emotions, torn between the charming Wickham and the enigmatic Darcy. The tension between her feelings for the two men grew, leading her to question her judgments and the societal expectations placed upon her. The arrival of new guests in Meryton only added to the intrigue, as rumors began to swirl about potential alliances and rivalries, setting the stage for further complications in the lives of the Bennet sisters. The arrival of the new officers in Meryton stirred excitement among the young ladies, and the atmosphere was charged with anticipation. Elizabeth and her sisters attended various gatherings, where they encountered Mr. Wickham frequently. His charm and affability made him a favorite among the Bennet sisters, particularly Lydia and Kitty, who were captivated by his stories and good looks. With each encounter, Elizabeth felt her admiration for Wickham grow, as he continued to share tales of his past and his grievances with Mr. Darcy. He painted a vivid picture of Darcy as a man of privilege who had wronged him, further fueling Elizabeth's disdain for the proud gentleman. Meanwhile, Jane's relationship with Mr. Bingley blossomed, and Mrs. Bennet's hopes for a match between them intensified. Elizabeth watched her sister's happiness with a mix of joy and concern, knowing how precarious social standings could be. One evening, during a lively gathering, Mr. Bingley invited Jane to dance, and the two seemed perfectly matched. Elizabeth, however, could not shake the feeling of unease that settled in her stomach whenever she encountered Mr. Darcy. His presence loomed over her like a shadow, and despite her attempts to dismiss him, she found herself drawn to the complexity of his character. The evening culminated in a heated discussion about Pride and Prejudice, with Elizabeth passionately defending her views, unaware that her words would resonate deeply with Mr. Darcy, who had been listening intently from a distance. As the days turned into weeks, the dynamics between the characters began to shift dramatically. Mr. Bingley's affections for Jane grew stronger, while Mr. Darcy's feelings for Elizabeth became increasingly complicated. Elizabeth, still grappling with her perceptions of Darcy, found herself in a series of encounters that challenged her initial judgments. One afternoon, while walking in the gardens of Netherfield, she unexpectedly ran into Mr. Darcy. Their conversation was charged with tension, as they exchanged opinions on various topics, revealing glimpses of their true selves. Elizabeth's spirited nature clashed with Darcy's pride, leading to a lively debate that left her feeling exhilarated yet frustrated. Despite her reservations, she couldn't deny the spark of attraction that flickered between them. Meanwhile, Mr. Wickham continued to charm the Bennet sisters, further complicating Elizabeth's feelings. His tales of woe regarding Darcy painted a picture of a man who was not only proud but also vindictive. Elizabeth found herself torn between the allure of Wickham's charm and the growing complexity of her feelings for Darcy. The arrival of a letter from Mr. Collins, a distant cousin, added another layer of tension to the household. His proposal to marry one of the Bennet sisters, particularly Jane, sent shockwaves through the family. Elizabeth, however, was determined to reject his advances, unwilling to settle for a marriage devoid of love. As the pressures of society mounted, Elizabeth's resolve to stay true to herself only strengthened, setting the stage for a confrontation that would challenge her beliefs and alter her life forever. The unexpected arrival of Mr. Collins at the Bennet household brought a whirlwind of emotions. His pompous demeanor and self-importance were immediately off-putting to Elizabeth, who found his proposal to marry one of the Bennet sisters both absurd and infuriating. Mrs. Bennet, however, saw this as a golden opportunity to secure a favorable match for her daughters, particularly for Jane, whom she believed would be the perfect candidate. Elizabeth, on the other hand, was adamant in her refusal to entertain the notion of marrying someone so insufferable. Mr. Collins's incessant praise of Lady Catherine de Bourgh, his patroness, only added to Elizabeth's disdain for him. The dinner conversations were filled with Mr. Collins's self-aggrandizing stories, leaving the family feeling more exasperated than impressed. When he finally proposed to Elizabeth, she firmly rejected him, much to his astonishment. His inability to comprehend her refusal only highlighted his ridiculousness. Elizabeth's sisters were equally perplexed by his persistence, and the tension in the household escalated. As the days passed, Elizabeth found solace in her walks and conversations with her sisters, who rallied around her in support. The arrival of news regarding Mr. Bingley and Jane's growing relationship provided a welcome distraction. However, Elizabeth couldn't shake the feeling that she was caught in a web of societal expectations, with Mr. Collins's proposal serving as a stark reminder of the pressures placed upon women. As she navigated the complexities of family dynamics and societal norms, Elizabeth's determination to remain true to herself only grew stronger, setting the stage for a confrontation that would challenge her beliefs and alter her life forever. With Mr. Collins's proposal firmly rejected, the atmosphere in the Bennet household shifted. Mrs. Bennet was furious, unable to understand why Elizabeth would refuse such a favorable match. The tension between mother and daughter grew, with Mrs. Bennet insisting that Elizabeth was throwing away a golden opportunity for security. Meanwhile, Jane's relationship with Mr. Bingley continued to flourish, providing a stark contrast to Elizabeth's predicament. As the weeks passed, Elizabeth found herself increasingly drawn to Mr. Darcy, despite her initial disdain for him. Their encounters were fraught with tension, and Elizabeth couldn't help but feel a mixture of irritation and intrigue whenever they crossed paths. One afternoon, while visiting her friend Charlotte Lucas, Elizabeth learned that Charlotte had accepted Mr. Collins's proposal. The news shocked her, as Charlotte had always been a voice of reason. Elizabeth grappled with her feelings, questioning the choices women had to make in a society that prioritized security over love. Charlotte's decision to marry Mr. Collins for practical reasons resonated with Elizabeth, forcing her to confront her own beliefs about marriage. As she returned home, Elizabeth's thoughts were consumed by the idea of love versus practicality. The contrast between her sister's blossoming romance and Charlotte's pragmatic choice left her feeling conflicted. Each encounter with Mr. Darcy only deepened her confusion, as she struggled to reconcile her growing feelings for him with her preconceived notions of pride and prejudice. The stage was set for a confrontation that would challenge her beliefs and alter her life forever, as the complexities of love and societal expectations loomed larger than ever. The arrival of Mr. Collins and his impending marriage to Charlotte Lucas sent ripples through the Bennet household. Elizabeth felt a mix of disbelief and concern for her friend, who had chosen security over love. The contrast between Charlotte's practical decision and Elizabeth's desire for a meaningful connection weighed heavily on her mind. Meanwhile, Jane's relationship with Mr. Bingley continued to blossom, providing a beacon of hope amidst the societal pressures surrounding them. However, Elizabeth's thoughts were increasingly consumed by Mr. Darcy. Their encounters were charged with tension, and she found herself questioning her initial judgments of him. One afternoon, while walking in the gardens of Netherfield, Elizabeth unexpectedly encountered Mr. Darcy. Their conversation began with the usual banter, but soon shifted to deeper topics. Elizabeth challenged him on his views of pride and social class, and to her surprise, Darcy engaged earnestly, revealing a glimpse of vulnerability beneath his proud exterior. The exchange left Elizabeth feeling unsettled yet intrigued, as she began to see Darcy in a new light. The more she learned about him, the more she questioned her preconceived notions. As the days turned into weeks, Elizabeth's internal struggle intensified. She admired Darcy's intelligence and depth, yet his pride still irked her. The arrival of new guests in Meryton only added to the intrigue, as rumors of potential engagements and rivalries swirled. Elizabeth found herself caught in a whirlwind of emotions, torn between her growing feelings for Darcy and her loyalty to her own principles. The complexities of love and societal expectations loomed larger than ever, setting the stage for a confrontation that would challenge her beliefs and alter her life forever. The tension in the Bennet household reached new heights as Mr. Collins and Charlotte Lucas prepared for their wedding. Elizabeth felt a mix of sadness and disbelief, grappling with the reality of her friend's choice. The contrast between Charlotte's pragmatic decision and her own ideals about love weighed heavily on her heart. Meanwhile, Jane's relationship with Mr. Bingley continued to flourish, providing a glimmer of hope amidst the tumult. Elizabeth found herself reflecting on the nature of love and marriage, questioning the sacrifices women made in pursuit of security. Just as she was grappling with these thoughts, an unexpected letter from Mr. Darcy arrived, challenging her perceptions once again. In the letter, he addressed the misunderstandings that had arisen between them, expressing his admiration for her spirit and intellect. Elizabeth was taken aback, her emotions swirling as she read his words. The letter revealed a side of Darcy she had never seen, one filled with sincerity and vulnerability. As she processed his thoughts, Elizabeth felt a shift within herself, recognizing the complexities of his character. The more she learned about Darcy, the more she questioned her initial judgments. The contrast between her feelings for him and the societal expectations surrounding their relationship created a whirlwind of emotions. As the days passed, Elizabeth found herself torn between her growing affection for Darcy and her commitment to her own principles. The stage was set for a confrontation that would challenge her beliefs and alter her life forever, as the complexities of love and societal expectations loomed larger than ever. The arrival of Mr. Darcy's letter had a profound impact on Elizabeth, forcing her to re-evaluate her feelings and perceptions. As she pondered his words, she felt a mixture of confusion and intrigue. Darcy's honesty about his feelings for her challenged her preconceived notions, and she found herself grappling with the complexity of their relationship. Meanwhile, the preparations for Mr. Collins and Charlotte's wedding were in full swing, and Elizabeth's heart ached for her friend. Charlotte's pragmatic choice to marry for security rather than love resonated deeply with Elizabeth, highlighting the societal pressures that dictated women's lives. The contrast between Charlotte's decision and her own desire for a meaningful connection weighed heavily on her mind. As the wedding approached, Elizabeth found solace in her conversations with Jane, who remained optimistic about her relationship with Mr. Bingley. However, Elizabeth couldn't shake the feeling that her own life was at a crossroads. The tension between her growing feelings for Darcy and her commitment to her principles created a whirlwind of emotions, leaving her feeling both exhilarated and frightened. One evening, while walking in the garden, she unexpectedly encountered Mr. Darcy. Their conversation was charged with unspoken feelings, and Elizabeth felt a spark of connection that both thrilled and terrified her. As they spoke, she found herself drawn to his intelligence and vulnerability, challenging her initial judgments. The complexities of love and societal expectations loomed larger than ever, setting the stage for a confrontation that would ultimately alter the course of their lives forever. The wedding of Mr. Collins and Charlotte Lucas marked a turning point in Elizabeth's life. Attending the ceremony, she felt a mix of emotions, sadness for her friend's choice and a renewed determination to pursue her own ideals about love. The contrast between Charlotte's practical marriage and her own aspirations weighed heavily on her heart. Meanwhile, Jane's relationship with Mr. Bingley continued to flourish, providing a glimmer of hope amidst the societal pressures surrounding them. As Elizabeth navigated her own feelings, she found herself increasingly drawn to Mr. Darcy. Their encounters were charged with tension, and she began to see glimpses of vulnerability beneath his proud exterior. One afternoon, while visiting Pemberley, Darcy's estate, Elizabeth was struck by its beauty and grandeur. The visit allowed her to witness a different side of Darcy, one that revealed his deep sense of family and responsibility. As they explored the estate, their conversations shifted from playful banter to deeper discussions about life and love. Elizabeth found herself captivated by his intelligence and passion, challenging her previous judgments. The more she learned about him, the more she questioned her feelings. The arrival of unexpected guests at Pemberley added to the intrigue, as rumors of potential engagements and rivalry swirled. Elizabeth felt a whirlwind of emotions, torn between her growing affection for Darcy and her commitment to her own principles. The complexities of love and societal expectations loomed larger than ever, setting the stage for a confrontation that would challenge her beliefs and alter her life forever. As Elizabeth continued to navigate the complexities of her feelings for Mr. Darcy, she found herself increasingly captivated by his character. The visit to Pemberley had opened her eyes to a different side of him, one filled with warmth and depth. However, the contrast between her feelings and the societal expectations placed upon her created a tumultuous inner conflict. Elizabeth began to question everything she thought she knew about love, pride, and prejudice. After returning home from Pemberley, Elizabeth was met with a flurry of activity. Jane and Mr. Bingley's relationship was blossoming, but there were whispers of trouble on the horizon. Mr. Darcy's friend was suddenly distant, and Elizabeth feared for her sister's happiness. The tension in the air was palpable as the Bennet family continued to navigate the complexities of their social standing and the expectations that accompanied it. One evening, during a family gathering, Elizabeth overheard a conversation that sent her heart racing. Mrs. Bennet expressed her concerns about Jane's future, while Mr. Bennet remained skeptical of the intentions of the wealthy suitor. Elizabeth couldn't help but feel a sense of urgency to protect her sister's happiness. Determined to confront the situation, she sought out Mr. Darcy, hoping to gain insight into his friend's behavior. When they met, the air crackled with unspoken feelings. Elizabeth challenged Darcy about his role in the unfolding drama between Jane and Bingley. To her surprise, Darcy was forthcoming, revealing his genuine concern for Jane's well-being. Their conversation took unexpected turns, and Elizabeth found herself captivated by his sincerity. The barriers that had once separated them began to crumble as they discussed their views on love and societal expectations. As their connection deepened, Elizabeth realized that her feelings for Darcy were transforming. The pride she had once attributed to him started to fade, revealing a man capable of profound emotion and vulnerability. However, the fear of societal judgment loomed over them, creating an atmosphere of uncertainty. Elizabeth grappled with the notion of marrying for love versus marrying for security, a dilemma that many women faced in their society. The tension reached its peak when Mr. Wickham re-entered the scene, stirring up old grievances. His charm and charisma had a magnetic effect on Elizabeth, but she could no longer ignore the inconsistencies in his stories. With each encounter, she felt the tug of loyalty to her family and the need to protect her sister's happiness. Elizabeth confronted Wickham about his past with Darcy, and in doing so, she began to unravel the truth behind his character. As the pieces fell into place, Elizabeth found herself at a crossroads. The more she learned about Darcy and Wickham, the more she realized the complexity of human nature. She began to understand that first impressions could be deceiving, and that true character often lay beneath the surface. The tension between her and Darcy grew, culminating in a heated exchange that forced them both to confront their feelings. In a moment of vulnerability, Darcy confessed his love for Elizabeth, revealing the depth of his emotions. Elizabeth was taken aback, torn between her feelings for him and the fear of societal repercussions. She challenged him to reconsider his views on class and privilege, pushing him to see beyond the constraints of their world. Their conversation was a turning point, laying bare the prejudices that had clouded their judgments. As the dust settled, Elizabeth found herself more determined than ever to pursue a love that defied societal expectations. The journey toward understanding and acceptance was fraught with challenges, but Elizabeth was ready to face them head-on. The complexities of love, pride, and prejudice intertwined, creating a narrative that would ultimately lead to self-discovery and personal growth. With newfound clarity, Elizabeth resolved to confront the obstacles that lay ahead. She understood that her choices would not only impact her own life but also the lives of those she loved. The stakes were high, and the path to happiness was uncertain, but Elizabeth was prepared to fight for a future that embraced love in all its forms. As she stepped into the unknown, she felt a sense of empowerment, ready to challenge the norms of her society and carve her own destiny. In the end, the story of Elizabeth Bennet and Mr. Darcy would become one of triumph over adversity, a testament to the power of love to transcend social barriers. Their journey would inspire others to look beyond pride and prejudice, reminding them that true happiness lies in authenticity and connection. As the final chapters of their story unfolded, Elizabeth and Darcy would discover that love, when nurtured with understanding and respect, could overcome even the most entrenched societal divides.